Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Municipality of Thames Centre. The date is Monday, April the 29th, 2024, and the time is 5 p.m. We're in the council chambers at the municipal office at 4305 Hamilton Road, Dorchester, Ontario, and I would like to call this meeting to order. There are no additions to the agenda that I'm aware of, so I wonder if we could have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest from the members of council? None? Okay, that we can move on then. One little brief announcement that I have tonight. Tonight, I would like to begin our meeting by acknowledging and congratulating our local Optimist Club for all the good work they do to support the youth of our community. Because of this evening's council meeting, I will not be on hand to take part in their annual Youth Appreciation Night. But one of our long-term members of staff and a member of the Optimist Club, Tammy Hunter, will be on hand to represent Thames Centre. I would like to offer our congratulations to the Optimists, and on behalf of council and the municipality, keep up the good work. It's so encouraging to our young people. Just one of our many groups in Dorchester will help out so much. Moving on then, I'd like to, the item number 6 on your agenda is the Smile campaign and VON. Would you ladies like to come forward, Jody and Catherine? Okay. Just whenever you're ready. Your mics turn on by, there's a little voice symbol in the middle of your mic. Should flash red. Okay,
Perfect.
Great.
Okay. Thank you for having us tonight. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jody Weingarten. I'm the Community Development Coordinator for London Middlesex Ontario Student Nutrition Program. I have been with VON for 15 years and in this role for the past 4 years. I have had the great pleasure to work with a lot of the staff and students at Lord Dorchester Secondary School over the past 3.5 years, and the community support that will bring the much needed funds to their breakfast program is why we're here to talk about, as well as Northdale Central, which has a snack program, and there's never enough funding to fund these programs. So that's why we're here tonight to talk to all of you.
Hello. Is that working? Okay. Okay. Hello, my name is Catherine, and I am also a CDC or Community Development Coordinator for London Middlesex. I've been in this position for about 3 years as well. I'm really excited to be here. I've been involved in the Dorchester and Thorndale communities for over 8 years, teaching exercise classes to retirement homes, and just in the community as well at the rec center here. So I'm very excited to be here to share exciting news. So thank you again for having us. Oh, okay. Oh, did that work?
Okay.
Okay, so I have to apologize. We're guilty of being acronym workplaces, so I'll do my best to keep you up to speed. So the OSNP is the Ontario Student Nutrition Program. We are funded by the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services as a cost-shared model, as Jody had mentioned. So schools are required to fundraise and seek additional support or product donation to sustain their programs. Our secondary funders would be the Grocery Foundation, as well as Breakfast Clubs of Canada, and many generous farmers and community members as well. Our provincial rep is SNO, Student Nutrition Ontario. So they oversee the 14 lead agencies, ours being the VON. So VON is a trusted charity that delivers home care community support to more than 10,000 people in Ontario and Nova Scotia every day. Together with our employees, volunteers, and clients, We help clients stay healthy, live well, and remain active. VO1 is accredited and with exemplary standing with Accreditation Canada. In the Southwest region, you can see the picture here. We have over 8 regions that we support, London Middlesex being one of them, and supporting over 470 schools. Jody will speak to the local community a little bit more later on. And at this time, I would like to address the recent announcement we're very excited for. So that $1 billion that the federal government had announced for student nutrition programs, SNPs. At this time, we're awaiting what this will look like for us here in Ontario. This is very exciting news and definitely a step in the right direction. However, we are unsure what this will look like in the coming months. So once we learn more, we will definitely share.
Go to the next slide.
Next slide.
Thank you. So I just want to talk about how we administer funding to the schools for programs. As Kat said, we are funded by the Ministry of Community and Children's Social Services. And from there, we flow the funding to the schools, depending on whether they're a snack or a meal. And from there, we also go ahead and we support the schools with fundraising and encourage them to look at local grants throughout the community, as well as provincially and through Canada-wide. With our programs, we offer 2 models. One of them is called the school food delivery. It's a bulk food delivery program, and they get fresh produce delivered directly to their doors once a week on Mondays, enough to sustain for the amount of children that they are funded for the week. And then the other one is a grant installment, and they would get 3 grant installments through the school year directly into their account, and they shop for themselves, and then they follow the nutrition guidelines to ensure that they are doing the correct shopping and nutrition offering to the students. So, and then we know that it's evidence-based research on health and academic outcomes are associated with the program. And then on our OSMP website, we have some research on fruit and vegetable consumption and also benefits of SNPs in Middlesex and London areas, and the support of local farmers that we do get throughout the year as well, which is wonderful. Next slide, please.
So student nutrition programs serve thousands of children across the province to ensure that they attend school well nourished and ready to learn. School food programs are more than just providing a snack. They impact the mind, body, community, and the planet, as you can see from our beautiful picture on the left. One thing that we're very proud of is our gold standard pillars. So as you can see, nutrition. So all of our schools follow guidelines that they have to follow when purchasing to make sure the food that they do offer is nutritious and more specifically local as well when possible. Food safety, so staff and volunteers have to have an individual on site with a safe food handling certification. Program sustainability, so again, it's a cost shared model, which requires schools to invest in fundraising, community partnerships, along with involving volunteers, student and parent engagement. Equity and inclusion, so we ensure that the food offerings meet the faith and the culture of the school community. Different engagement strategies that involve students in all aspects of the planning, which are definitely life transferable skills from budgeting, planning, prep, and delivery to the classrooms. And finally, food literacy. Although we're not specifically funded for food literacy, it gives opportunities to connect with what they eat in the class with curriculum, and definitely on-hand experiences such as school gardens, cooking classes, and other methods.
Thank you. So we currently support 90 schools in the London and Middlesex area, and 18 of them being in Middlesex County. So we stretch right from Dorchester through London, up to Park Hill, Elsie Craig, Lucan, Strathroy, Glencoe, Delaware. So we do a big encompassment. So we notice that many schools have a certain amount they are funded for, but due to universal nature of the program, we have experienced exponential growth in schools. So a lot of newcomers to Canada and that have been settling in the London Middlesex area, and school populations have just risen. So we're definitely seeing number of students accessing the program doubling and tripling. School nutrition programs are needed more than ever. We're just letting you know that we have more schools wanting to come on as well, but as we work through our funding, that will happen, and hopefully we can do that. So we do have our social media that we've been putting Smile Cookie information on all week. So the information is there. We're at SNPM on X or Twitter. Facebook is OSMP London Middlesex, and our Instagram is OSMP London Middlesex. So if you want to check out any of those wonderful pictures and posts, they are there and available for you.
And one thing that I want to highlight is how many meals or snacks will be served this school year, almost 4 million. And that's what's reported. That's probably above and beyond. So that's just, I don't know, it's a huge number in this area, 4 million snacks this school year.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Mhm.
Anyway, next slide.
Mhm.
Okay, so this brings us to our exciting news. As you all are probably aware, we are one of the lucky recipients of Smile Cookie this year. So we've been around town delivering cookies, and we also have some cookies here as well that you're free to grab whenever you're able to. And I'll let Jody speak to the campaign a little bit more.
So Cookie Smile started today. It goes until Sunday, May 5th. Tomorrow morning at the Dorchester Road. Tim Hortons is our kickoff at 9:30 a.m. I know some of you are attending and we're very excited. We're gonna have some cookie contests, decorating, some photo ops and some speeches. And we really hope that it will really be successful. So if you're in the mood for something yummy and sweet to support the community, go on through the drive-through or into the lobby, and the different individuals at Tim Hortons will definitely help you. So we're very excited that we were chosen to be able to support the schools in that and their much needed nutrition programs.
Yeah, and again, 100% of the proceeds do go towards these. I just want to reiterate that. And the ones that we're supporting is Lord Dorchester and Northdale Central here locally. So how can you help? So as community members, individuals, and organizations, you can also support the campaign by purchasing bulk orders at the participating Tim Hortons store. Corporate and group orders are a great way to share a smile, as we saw many this morning showing up with boxes of cookies around town. Pre-order forms are available for purchases by the dozen, and are available in store and online. And then our last slide.
Thank you.
So thank you so much again for this opportunity to present and speak and share about OSNP and the great work that is being accomplished with everyone in the community locally here to support their student nutrition programs. So again, specifically, Lord Dorchester and Northdale Central will benefit greatly from your support in this Smile Cookie campaign hosted by your local Dorchester Tim Hortons.
And then we hope that you are all able to support this amazing campaign and spread the word in your neighborhood. Again, you can purchase the cookies this week from today, April 29th to Sunday, May the 5th, between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m. Lots of cookie eating opportunities. And again, on behalf of OSMP and VON, we are so grateful for your time and support. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kathy, Catherine and Jody. Yeah, I can see your enthusiasm for this. It's an exciting campaign. The Deputy Mayor, Michelle Smybert, and Chantal Crockett, our Ward 3 counselor, I believe, is on hand tomorrow, and I'll be there. Do we get to eat the rejects, or what's that? Believe it, I don't need any more rejects. Anyway, that's great. Any comments from council or anything? Deputy Mayor Smybert.
I just wanted to thank you for coming in. I've heard about the nutrition programs, but didn't know exactly what went where and what resources. And so I'm wishing you all the best with the campaign, hoping that you can get some much needed resources, and it will be interesting to see. And I'm hopeful that you're able to get a portion of that new funding allocation that the feds announced last week. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of cookies to share around.
Okay, if there's nothing further, then I'd like to thank you very much for your presence here tonight, and we'll see you in the morning. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, at this point then, I'd like to have a mover and a seconder to accept the presentation. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman. All in favor? And that carries as well. Thanks. Okay, next item, 6.2, Middlesex Federation of Agriculture presentation. So we have 3 of you here this evening. You want to introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Crispin Colvin. I'm with the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture, and I'm also a director on the Ontario Federation of Agriculture.
My name is Ken Impey. I'm representing the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture.
And Marcel Meyer, first vice president for the Federation, Middlesex.
So in your package, you would have received the year in review from the Middlesex Federation. And just before I go into some other remarks, there's one thing I'd like to highlight, and that's the field signs. And you may have seen some of them around, but you'll notice you never saw one that said sweet corn. Now, we do have it, but somehow nobody wanted to put it up in their field, and we can't figure that out. But would have been a lot of very low yield in that field had we done so. So there are a few items that I would like to bring to your attention. The first one is the stormwater management issue. Some municipalities are changing how they deal with stormwater management in terms of farms and farm buildings and agricultural areas. I believe Peel and Halton were the two that come to mind. And what they're doing is they're charging any farm buildings a stormwater management fee. And we've really been pushing back on this because farms tend to store the water. We store it in the soil, and it doesn't go into the municipal system. We also pay for our own personal drainage on all our farms, so we're taking care of the excess water to begin with. And when there's a municipal drain that crosses your property, of course, we pay for that. We pay our share of the apportionment, depending on what it is. But the other aspect of stormwater management is that soil stores water, and soil also acts as a filtration system. So the water that comes off our buildings, it comes off and goes into the ground in our farms and in our areas, goes into the water table. So some of it that may be coming off Marcel's farm or Ken's property or my own may well be going into Dorchester's water system. And it just doesn't seem to us to be right to charge stormwater management when we're not contributing to the problem. We're actually solving the problem. The next item I'd like to touch on is the Auditor General's report on well water testing. The Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, their source protection branch, has been asked to deliver education and outreach to private well owners under the new Best Practices Initiative. And this is a good thing. Well owners know the importance of testing, and we agree with the ministry initiative. In fact, one of the goals is of WaterWise, which is the title of one of the programs, is to encourage well owners to get their water tested regularly. Private wells don't have legislated safeguards that you would have in the municipal water system. Health Canada also refers to 3 studies that they did that determine that private wells are more vulnerable to pathogens and are more likely to contribute to gastrointestinal illnesses than any public system. So if public health stops testing the water as per the Auditor General's report, and rural residents then have to pay for the testing, and I've been told it could be up to $150 a test, quite simply, people will stop testing. I have personal experience with bad water. We got ours tested. It looked clean. It tasted fine. We were using it. And I took a test in and was told to stop drinking it until we had a UV filter system on it because we had bacteria in the water. You couldn't taste it. You couldn't see it. Had I not had that opportunity to test the water, I would have kept on drinking it. And ultimately, the problem becomes I would have been sick. Possibly my wife would have been sick. One of us. So that means doctor's visit. And subsequently, it means hospital visits. The cost is far greater to the society as a whole if we stop testing as opposed to maintaining the testing. So we're urging you to support this, us in this endeavor and other municipalities that may be feeling the same way, that water testing should be maintained by the public health unit for rural residents at no cost. Another topic we'd like to touch on is the battery energy storage systems. And I'm sure you've probably heard of this because companies are starting to look at land where they can put this. The IESO, which is the Independent Electric System Operator, has mandated in Ontario that there should be an increase in electricity storage. I think they're looking at something like 5 or 10 megawatts. I'm not sure. I had the notes at home, but I didn't think it was to write them down. But what we're finding out as we look at these and we talk to municipalities, and Chatham being one of them that we've talked to, is that urban centers don't want them that close. They're worried about the fire issues. They're worried about the toxic smoke and the fire hazard, as I say, in particular. Hydro, because these systems put power back onto the grid. So Hydro has said, we don't want them too close to our main power lines, because if they catch fire, the smoke alone will gum the power lines enough to cause major power outages. So they have to be away from the power lines as well. So you don't want them in, cities don't want them. Hydro doesn't really want it too close. They're willing to take the power. They just don't want the proximity. So these are some of the hazards that we're looking at. So they don't want them. So currently, if they catch fire, they're left to burn because water doesn't put them out, apparently. I was at a seminar and the one person said water will actually suppress the fire. They stop putting the water on and it just comes right back up again. So you just have to let them burn. And there was a video I saw that was actually taken in Australia. It was an electric car that was on fire. And they picked it up and they put it in a big tank of water. And a few days later, they took it out and it started burning again. So these things have a lot of history that is not good in the short term, and we need to know a lot more about them before we start to endorse them. The IESO is also estimating that it's going to take up to 2.2 million acres of land in Ontario for battery energy storage systems. Now, granted, some of that land will be class 5 or 6 or 7 poorer land, but some of it will also be 1, 2, and 3 lands, the best lands. So we really are concerned about where they put these from the point of view that we don't want them particularly near our buildings or properties either. But at the same time, we don't know what it might do to livestock operations. So if you have a dairy operation and one of these catches fire and the toxic smoke is blowing to your barn, what does that do to your milk production? What does it do to the quality of the milk? We don't know. There are too many unknowns still with the battery energy storage system. Another aspect is that there are a lot of other options out there that haven't yet been explored. Long distance energy storage is one of them. Energy domes, which is a closed loop of CO2 in a battery system. And hydrostore, which is compressed energy stored underground in rocks and caverns. None of these have really been looked at. Some of them are in operation on a test basis in the United States. The hydrostore is a Canadian operation based out of Toronto, actually, trying to find places where they can test their system of putting energy stored underground in used mines, for example. And one other last aspect of the battery energy storage system is the lifespan of these products. They are supposed to last, I believe, up to about 25 years, give or take, and technology will improve that. But right now, we've been told that anywhere from 10% to as high as 50% can be recycled, which means the balance goes to landfill. That in itself poses problems with leaching into the water table from products. You don't know what's there. Now, again, 50%, it might be 90% in another decade, but in the interim, it's still going to create a bit of an issue. And the next issue I just want to touch on, and you've probably heard me ad nauseum on this one, but is land preservation. And I'm afraid I can't get away from that one. You've heard me say 319 acres a day that Ontario loses to other uses other than agriculture. That equates to 116,435 acres per year. The last census indicated that Ontario had 11.7 million acres of farmland. So if you do the math, in 101 years, we'll have no farmland left in Ontario if we continue at the rate we're going. What that means is that Ontario becomes dependent on any other province or country to feed itself. In a world of sustainability, that's a frightening thought. But the other thing I think we have to look at is where are we going to be in 30 or 40 years? In 40 years, will we have enough land to still feed the growing population of the province, or will we actually reach the tipping point at that stage? When COVID came, we saw what the shortages were like. We saw the difficulties. Nations will feed themselves before they will export in an emergency. So we're putting ourselves in a bit of a tough spot. In fact, I look at India as one example. India controls 40% of the world's rice crop. When the price is down, India says, oh, we're not exporting any more rice. We're keeping it for our own population. We need to feed ourselves. But when the price goes up, because they control 40%, all of a sudden they have a surplus. That's the kind of thing we face if we don't protect our land to be able to feed ourselves. So what do we need other than just say, don't build on it? Well, we need better planning. As one planner said, You can't correct a bad planning decision. You can learn from it, but you can't correct it because the land's already gone. So we need better planning decisions to preserve our class 1, 2, 3, and 4 lands. There are a lot of places to build industry and commercial enterprises in Ontario, and I applaud the provincial government for doing what they're doing. They're bringing a lot of jobs here. They're bringing a lot of economic stimulus, and that's the right thing to do. But we have to know where to put it, and that's the key that's seems to be overlooked. People will move to where jobs are. I was challenged on this by one of my directors around the board table at the OFA. He said, you can't tell people where to go. I said, no, but if you incentivize the business to go somewhere, the people will go to work. People don't live in Dryden, where my wife comes from, because it's beautiful. I mean, it is nice if you like the north, but it's the paper mill that keeps people there. If it wasn't for the mill, there wouldn't be a lot of people there. So people will go to where there is work. So when the Ring of Fire, for example, opens up, places like Geraldton and other small northern communities will boom. Sioux Lookout and Red Lake, they reopened the mines and you couldn't buy a house there because people moved back. At one time, you couldn't give a house away. So things will change, but that's where the good planning has to come in. Better planning results in long-term gains for the economy. But I believe that municipalities with class 1, 2, and 3 lands will have stronger economies because they're going to be in charge of food and food production, and we always need that. On that note, I will stop and see if my colleagues wish to jump in.
You have anything to add?
So locally, a few things that our county is very proud of doing. One, you might have heard a little bit about the Children's Museum is opening up shortly. And our county harnessed the power of 5 other counties to collectively put a considerable amount of money into putting an agricultural feature into the Children's Museum. This has been about a 5-year process, the pandemic being part of that, and then funding on other areas of the Children's Museum. But hopefully later this year, we will see it come to open and we'll be proud to present the agricultural component of it. It's a proud moment for us. The local county is always trying to promote agriculture within our own farm members, but also from outside. And so if there's ever anything that this council is looking for in support of or for assistance from an agricultural perspective, please feel free to contact the county, and we're always there to try to assist. Obviously, we want to protect agriculture as much as possible, but at the same time, we live in the community that we're proud of. We spoke last year of something that the municipalities become part of, but not intentionally. We're building up roads, gravel roads in particular, to make them more capable to support the loads that go up and down our gravel roads. But as a result, we have built the roads up so high that some of our tall equipment is now almost touching electric hydro lines that they're going through. And so we have to be cognizant of that and either work with Hydro One or keep the base solid before we build the roads up so that we don't have that problem because of, we've got one farmer in particular that has come to us a few times and now actually has for his tall equipment a bit of a slide so that the hydro lines go over his equipment because he's knocked a couple down because of the building roads.
I just want to comment on the battery energy storage systems. In the article, there's a really good article, and I gave it to your Mr. Barrick and for him to read. And in there's a lot of good information, and I highlighted some of it. In there, the reason that we brought this up to you is because you have to, as a council, approve these before they can go ahead. And there's lots of so-called brown land, industrial lands, areas that are designated for industrial that can be used for these. So that's just another point I wanted to add to that. And I think that's our presentation. And thank you very much for listening to us.
Thanks very much. Any questions or comments from the members of council for the presentation? Deputy Mayor Smyberg.
Thank you. It's always good to hear what concerns you're facing, because it only informs us so that when we're deliberating around the horseshoe, we can take that into consideration. You had answered my questions about the well testing or for the water wells. So that's good. I know that we've got a resolution on the agenda tonight. So we can take a look at endorsing that. I like your pictogram. I just had a question for you. So on local farm sales, there's 5 farms operate a CSA. Can you just help explain exactly what that is? It says community supported agriculture. I just want to understand that.
Can I get back to you on that one?
Absolutely.
Can you do it? Thank you, Councillor.
So CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, which is essentially a system in which you buy a subscription and in the form of a box of produce that on a periodic basis, either weekly or bi-weekly. And the idea is that you are getting funding from the community because farmers take on a lot of the risk associated with the environment in producing food. So by having your end users assisting in the financing of these operations, they're sharing in the gain and in the risk. So it's a model that's used for a lot of market gardeners that is a way for many people who may otherwise have financial barriers of entry getting into farming themselves.
Thank you. I would trade you positions, but I've been there, done that. So
And, oh,
Just one other comment. Your local gardening or garden thing, if you are interested, we at Walker Farms would donate a load of compost if it would help for any of your gardens for nutritional value, okay? Just let me know how many yards or what you need.
we'll have Mr. McDonald make a note of that. Anything else from council? Councillor Heeman.
Yes, just with reference to the water testing, again, as Deputy Mayor mentioned, it's on our agenda for item 10.2, and that's something that we had the local source water protection report at the Upper Thames board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we do have some really great land stewardship here. And again, they've flagged the potential closing of the public labs. And I think that's something that we're hoping to address later today. I had a chance to go to the Children's Museum, the old one, this Saturday, and they did have a garden, and I've gotten a tour of the potential new one, and I hear they might have a tractor in this one. So that's, I think, a great testament to your efforts. And it's good to make sure that people understand where their food comes from. So again, with respect to stormwater, I think that that's an important concern, and I appreciate Ken bringing that forward to our environmental committee. And I know our staff are aware of that, and I don't think that's something that we want to reproduce. Again, we have the Drainage Act, we have local improvements, and we have stormwater for stormwater. And I don't think blurring the lines, as can happen in some more urban municipalities, is the way that we want to go in future. So thank you again for the work that you do.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman. Anyone else with a question or comment? I just have one. I didn't know anything about these battery energy storage until last evening, when Ken brought it up to me. How large are these, and are they on the ground, partially in the ground, underneath the ground?
No, they're above ground. And what they usually, in most cases, okay, there's 2 counties at the moment that have, where they've been proposed. One is in Huron County, and it's taking 45 acres of prime agricultural land. That's the proposed. Now, of course, the municipality yet has to rule on that. The other 2 are in Wellington County. One is at Bellwood, and the other one is at Elora. And they are between 12 and 15 acres. So what they usually do is they strip the topsoil, they pour a pad, and then they have to have some kind of a containment in case these batteries start to leak. That's another thing that we didn't touch on. They can every once in a while, for whatever reason, start to leak. And so you've got to make sure that you can contain that leakage. The other thing is with them, your fire departments have to have special equipment and they have to have special training to combat or fight these fires or help in the containment of the leakage. So that's where it is at right now. Go ahead, Marcia. Yes, and there's one in David's field too, and the better farming, in the main better farming.
So,
Oh,
so just a little bit of background, very simply, with the evolution to electric and every house having an electric car that needs charging, we don't have the infrastructure for the peaks in our hydro system. So the batteries are planned for local placement such that when there's low usage, the batteries are charging, and at peaks, rather than brownouts, those battery sources locally are providing that extra power for the community. So that's why the batteries are a concern, because of it's going to be more and more because we just don't have the infrastructure. In Stratford right now, there is a battery plant now existing right in Stratford itself. And I can provide more information down the road for you to that. It's just one example of something that's been around for a while, and these are coming to local areas. A few are planned and more will be coming just because of the need with electric cars.
thank you. So just further to that, then, if this is going to go on a farmer's property, first of all, who has jurisdiction? Is it federal jurisdiction or provincial?
It would be provincial because it's under the Independent
Yeah,
Electric Systems Operator and Hydro One.
Yeah, okay.
But the municipalities have to, you have to approve,
Approve
you
them.
have, they have to go through you first. It's in this article. It's a very good article.
Well, we'll make sure that that article goes around to the members of council. But in the meantime, too, should a farmer wish to do this and gets approval, do they get any compensation back to offset the loss of this farm and production?
That would be negotiated with the company putting it up. For example, Boralex is one of the companies that does battery storage units. They would either buy the land, they would rent the land. It's whatever it works out. Not unlike what Hydro does with transmission lines.
All right. Okay, I think that answers my question. Councillor Heyman has another question.
Through you, your worship, just a question to staff. I know we recently conducted a review of planning around green energy, specifically wind projects. Is this something that would require further direction from the province, or is there enough direction at this time for you to be comfortable to understand how we would regulate such things?
Okay, we'll ask our Director of Planning and Development to answer.
Through you, Mayor, I'm not aware of this issue, so I wish I was in an opportunity to comment, but unfortunately, I'm not aware of these situations that were just described by these gentlemen. So be happy to provide more information once I have a better understanding. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions or comments then from council? No, all good? Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. It was very enlightening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, a mover and a seconder, please, to that the presentation provided by the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture be received for information. Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Moving into Committee of Adjustment there, item number 7 on your agenda. A mover and a seconder that council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:38 p.m. in order to sit as a Committee of Adjustment under the Planning Act to consider minor variance applications listed on the April 29th, 2024 council agenda. A mover and a seconder, please. A moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? If that carries then, thank you very much. So the first item is 7.1, a minor variance application A3-24, David and Michelle MacArthur applicant, and the property address is 172 Boardwalk Way, Dorchester, and Elena Cortez is taking this one. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to seek relief from the Thames Center zoning bylaw with respect to the exterior side yard width requirements to allow the construction of a building accessory to a detached dwelling in the form of a greenhouse. So the subject property is a corner residential lot located on the north side of Boardwalk Way and on the east side of Mill Pond Crescent within the Boardwalk subdivision. The lands are designated residential according to the Thames Center official plan and are zoned a site-specific residential R1-17 zone according to the zoning bylaw. I'd like to note the air photo is outdated, so this area is shown as vacant land, although there are dwellings within the neighborhood, and the subject lands do contain a single detached dwelling, and the rear and side yards are screened by a wood privacy fence. So the applicants are proposing to construct a greenhouse with a floor area of 7.5 square meters and a height of 3.5 meters and a reduced setback of 0.6 meters from the exterior side lot line, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum setback of 4.5 meters. The reduced setback is being requested to ensure the overall effectiveness of the greenhouse by maximizing sun exposure and reducing shadowing impacts from the house. The variance was evaluated against the 4 tests of a minor variance, and staff is of the opinion that the variance meets all 4 tests, being that the variance is considered minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate use of the land, maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan, and also maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Unacceptable adverse impacts are not anticipated, given that the greenhouse would be approximately 0.6 meters from the westerly lot line and generally would be screened by the fence. In regards to comments received from staff and agencies, no comments or concerns were identified by the county engineer, Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, Director of Public Works, the Drainage Superintendent, or the Chief Building Official. No public comments have been received to date. Staff recommend that the minor variance application be granted for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Is anyone in the chambers representing the applicant who wishes to comment? Okay, would you like to make any comments? All right. Okay, okay. And I'm assuming, Sarah, there's no one from the public, either online or?
There's no one online, Your Worship.
Okay, all right. So, any questions from the members of the Committee of Adjustment? No? Okay. All right. So there is a recommendation for approval for minor variance application A3-24 as included on the agenda. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries. Thanks very much. Okay, item number 7.2, minor variance application A4-24, Chris and Lorraine Rynan at 92 Fox Hollow Drive, Dorchester. An overview of the application by our Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is an application for minor variance by Chris and Lorraine Rynan for a property located at 92 Fox Hollow Drive. So they're seeking relief from the zoning bylaw with respect to the front yard depth and side yard width requirements for an existing single detached dwelling. The property, it's a residential lot located on a cul-de-sac at the south end of Fox Hollow Drive off Hamilton Road. The property contains a single detached dwelling, which is connected to municipal water and sanitary sewers. And the applicant is seeking this approval for an existing dwelling with a deficient front yard depth of 7.38 meters and a deficient side yard width on the south side of the house of 1.4 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires 7.5 meter front yard depth and a 1.5 meter side yard width. The applicant has advised that although construction pins were set by the surveyor to ensure conformity with the zoning bylaw, the contractor went ahead and poured the foundation, and upon further review resulted in these yard deficiencies. I can confirm that all other zoning requirements have been satisfied. Just in terms of additional background, the subject property, they are designated residential, and they're also zoned for residential purposes under the R1-7 category. These lands are also located within a wellhead protection area and subject to the policies of the Thames, Sydenham, and Region Source Protection Plan. I've conducted my analysis, Your Worship, as outlined in my report, and I'm satisfied that the 4 tests under the Planning Act to evaluate minor variances has been met. In terms of circulation comments, there were no issues identified in the circulation to the county engineer, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, also our risk management official through Upper Thames, our Director of Public Works, our Drainage Superintendent, and also our Chief Building Official. To date, no comments have been received from the public. So it's my recommendation that this minor variance application as submitted be approved for the reasons outlined in my report. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bancroft. So any additional information that the applicant might want to provide? No? Okay. And anyone online or?
There's no one online, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Any questions then from the members of council? Okay. All right. Okay, seeing that there are none, there is a recommendation for approval of a minor variance application A4-24 as included on the agenda. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Good, that motion carries then. Thanks very much. One more, item number 7.3, minor variance application A5-24, Andrew Sawchuk and Robin Toonen for property at 3285 Catherine Street. And then Ms. Cortez. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to seek relief from the Thames Center zoning bylaw as it relates to the maximum height requirement to allow the construction of a detached garage. The property is a 1.3 acre residential lot located on the south side of Catherine Street, just west of Shaw Road. The lands are designated rural residential according to the official plan and are zoned a site-specific rural residential RR-5 zone according to the zoning bylaw. The subject lands contain a single detached dwelling and 2 smaller accessory buildings in the form of a shed and a gazebo, and the property contains a mixture of coniferous and deciduous trees. The applicants are proposing to construct a detached garage with a floor area of 115.5 square meters and a height of 6.2 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires permits a maximum height of 5 meters. The detached garage is to be located on the west side of the property in the rear yard. The applicant advised the increased height is required for storage of vehicles, and in particular, a car lift and/or similar vehicle storage clearance requirements. The proposal is capable of satisfying all other zoning requirements. The variance was evaluated against the 4 tests of a minor variance, and staff is of the opinion that the variance meets all 4 tests. Unacceptable adverse impacts are not anticipated, given the detached garage would be located in the rear yard, at least 4.5 meters from the westerly lot line, and would be screened from view from the road and from neighboring lands to the west by the existing trees. Additionally, the intent of restricting the height of accessory buildings is to ensure these structures are subordinate and not out of scale compared to the main residential use. The detached garage would generally be the same height as the existing single-story dwelling, although it's important to note the dwelling would remain the dominant visual structure of the property. In regards to comments received, 1 public comment has been received since the writing of the report from Dongfeng Liu, who advised the municipality should strictly implement the maximum height requirement of 5 meters. In regards to comments from staff and agencies, no comments or concerns were identified by the county engineer, Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, the drainage superintendent, director of public works, or the chief building official. Staff recommend that the minor variance application be granted for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. There again, is there the applicant in the room?
Yes, your worship, he's online. I'm going to bring him in right now.
Certainly.
Mr. Sawchuk, can you hear us? Mr. Sawchuk, can you hear us? You might be on mute.
Okay, it seems that Mr. Sawchuk's not available. So are there any questions from any of the public who might be online either?
There's no one online.
Okay, all right then. So we'll turn it over to council then for any questions.
I wasn't
Deputy
sure if
Mayor
there's
Smith.
anyone in the audience.
Is there anyone in the chambers who wishes to comment on this application as well? No? Okay, all right.
Oh, are you able to hear me?
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. It just kept spooling connecting. I didn't really have much more to add to anything anyways, so I didn't hear what the result was, if there was a result.
We've just received the report, that's all. So we're just looking for any information more from you or members of council. We'll move on to that. So we'll just continue on with that if you have nothing else to add to your application.
Nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. So then, since there's no one in the public or online, any comments, questions from council? Deputy Mayor Smyber.
Just one, and this is to the applicant. I understand through the planner that there'll be a lift associated with the construction of the new garage. I just want to confirm, and I'm sure that when you're talking to planning staff, they had talked to you about this too, that the use of the garage would just be for your vehicles only?
Did you hear the question, Mr. Stachak? Can you hear us,
Oh,
Mr. Stachak?
Yeah,
There you are.
sorry, it keeps toggling me from
Okay.
a panelist.
Hi.
It would not be used for any commercial purposes. It would only be used for our personal vehicles.
Okay, thank you. That answers the question then. All right then. Any other questions or comments from council before we move on? Okay. Well, in that particular case, then there's a recommendation for approval for minor variance application A5-24 as included on the agenda. So a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Lockie moving and Councillor Crockett seconder. All in favor? That carries then. Thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Sawchuk. So at this time, I need a mover and a seconder that the Committee of Adjustment adjourn at 5:53 PM and council reconvene its regular meeting. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, item number 8. A mover and a seconder so that council can adjourn at 5:54 to move into a public meeting pursuant to Section 28 of the Planning Act to consider a proposed community improvement plan. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. So the proposed community improvement plan is item number 8.1 on your agenda. So Director Bancroft, to go ahead with this.
Thank you, Mayor. So you have before you, as part of the council agenda, report number PDS-026-24, which provides an introduction to the proposed community improvement plan. It's certainly been a journey in terms of going through the process with respect to community engagement, which was initiated late last year. And we've come to the point now where the plan now needs to be vetted through a statutory public meeting of municipal council, which is the purpose for this matter this evening. So the intent is that once staff receives all the feedback in terms of community consultation through the statutory public meeting, then a subsequent report would follow to council to facilitate the approval of the community improvement plan, taking into account all of that feedback received with a recommendation for council's consideration at a future meeting. So you have before you the staff recommendation to receive the report from information, and that secondly, that staff be directed to present a subsequent report. In terms of presentation of the proposed CIP, I'm happy to introduce to council from Stantec, Rachel Hagath, who will be presenting the proposed document this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Whatever you like to go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Hagath, as Mark introduced, and I'm an urban planner at Stantec and part of the team that helped prepare this community improvement plan. Today, we will be going over what the CIP process is, the engagement program we conducted and feedback received from it, the incentives we developed for the CIP, and finishing off with the comments we received from different agencies. We'll be open to your comments and questions at the end. Starting off, a community improvement plan is a tool that allows the municipality to facilitate change, raise awareness to local needs, and encourage revitalization through the provision of financial incentives and grants. The Thames Center CIP will protect and enhance the municipality's hometown feel by strategically supporting the retention and attraction of businesses, encouraging agritourism initiatives, and assisting in the beautification of urban and rural areas to revitalize Thames Center and the communities within it. With the completion of the CIP, the process now involves implementation, which is under the control of the implementation committee, anticipated to occur over the next 10-year period. Eligible community members will complete the application process, which includes an application submitted to staff, an evaluation completed by the implementation committee, and approval by council or a delegated authority. After approval and signed agreements, the applicant will begin the community improvement project. The success of the CIP will also be monitored in accordance with the monitoring plan set out in Section 9 and includes providing annual reports to council and citizens with respect to the costs and benefits of the CIP. Next slide. The public stakeholder workshop session was held on November 23rd, 2023. When asked about potential CIP programs that could be introduced, stakeholders agreed how all programs that Stantec suggested could be beneficial in one way or another. Stakeholders also did not want to limit the incentives to certain areas and suggested the CIPA, which is the Community Improvement Project Area, be the entire municipality. Feedback given when stakeholders were asked about goals and improvements that should be addressed by the CIP. The responses included affordable housing, environment and sustainability, character preservation, support for local businesses, and community investment. Concerns about affordable housing were a key theme, with seniors being highlighted given the aging population, along with the increase in development charges hindering affordability. The preservation of existing village character was also important to stakeholders, specifically beautification on main streets, enhancing and protecting natural beauty, and maintaining the small town character and feel. The final area of note was businesses, which included attracting new businesses by increasing commercial and industrial tax pools, on-farm businesses, and protecting business districts in urban centers. Slide. Based on the feedback we received in working with the municipality, we developed the following incentives for the Thames Center CIP. There are 8 varying financial incentive programs set on the CIP. This includes the tax increment grant. So for example, the municipal portion of the tax increment related to the improvement of an existing building. A facade improvement grant to ensure masonry of a heritage building is preserved, as an example. Landscaping grant for enhanced streetscapes in the core. Commercial conversions and rental housing grant to utilize vacant or underutilized lots. On-farm business and tourism diversification grant, for example, to repurpose an agricultural building to support agricultural related uses. Building, property, and accessibility improvement grant, like the construction of ramps or automatic doors. Planning and building permit fee grant to help cover any planning application fees, for example. And lastly, sign improvement grant for any new business signs. Incentive programs are available throughout the term of the CIP. Their purpose is to provide support for physical improvements to privately owned land and buildings to meet the goal statement outlined in Section 3. Eligibility for these incentives is based on location, ownership, grants not exceeding $5,000 per property per project, and the plan to make beneficial improvements. A full list of the eligibility criteria is listed in Section 6.2 of the CIP. Next slide. Along with the notice sent out regarding this meeting, we circulated the draft CIP to multiple stakeholders and agencies and made it available to the public on the Thames Center website. Part of the CIP process is governed by the province, is having the draft CIP reviewed and commented on by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. The comments we received from them were minor and mainly editorial in nature. They included questions regarding eligible costs, specifically in regard to farm stand operations, on-farm store and markets, and commercial processing, as well as a few referencing errors. Based on those comments we received, we will be making the necessary edits to the CIP before finalization occurs. We received comments from Sifton Properties Limited, which included consideration for residential designation to be included in Section 6.2 of the CIP. Inclusion of additional financial programs targeted at incentivizing the development of affordable housing, and increase to maximum funding and expansion of eligible services for the landscaping grant. Based on this feedback and any other feedback from the public we received today, we will work with the municipality in how to address these comments. In addition to this, but not listed here, we also received feedback from Enbridge. Their comments related to including policies regarding pipeline considerations for development and including their pipeline mapping in the CIP, as this will be a constraint for developments and something they may have to review before approval of these projects. In addition, they attached a package that would be useful for applicants as it provides applicable requirements and guidelines for new development. Their comments will also, of course, be taken into consideration with the municipality and the updates we make to the draft CIP. We also received comments from the municipality of Thames Center building official, drainage superintendent, and public works, along with Bell Canada and Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. These agencies had no concerns or comments and just want to be kept in the loop of the process. This wraps up all the feedback we received, as well as the background on the CIP, and open up the floor for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, any questions from public? Or in person or virtual?
There's none online, Your Worship.
Alrighty. Any questions or comments from the members of council then? Councillor Lockie, go ahead.
Through your worship. So I think it's really good, well put together. Just where I'm a little confused about though, it seems like a big document that's really just focused on grants. Like, is there any other elements of the CIP outside of grants? And that's so kind of one question. Then the other question is, how much additional money will it cost the taxpayers to put in all these kinds of grants, like estimate?
Yeah, so this CIP is mainly focused on financial incentives. Typically, the CIP is geared towards financial incentives. There can be other options, but working with the municipality, I think it was decided on to focus on the grants that would help to improve the community. One, that it's still a financial incentive, but the tax increment grant, that more so comes from the applicant not having to pay for the increment increase when they add value to their property. So that way it's not necessarily, or it cannot, it depends how it's worked with council, but it's not necessarily coming out of the taxpayers' money. It's coming out of just them not taking the additional fee. In regard to the budgeting and where that the taxpayer money is coming from, that is discussed with council each year and just worked with the budget. And it really just depends what council decides where the budget is coming from. It can be reallocated. And Mark may have a better answer for that, or council, but it really is just fully based. Council has full control of where the funding comes from and what's allocated, the amount.
Thank you.
That answers all your questions then, Daniel?
It does, your worship. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Did I see Tom's hand? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. I was just wondering, I know we talked about it briefly in committee about the potential for in-kind in terms of building fees or planning fees, because I know like Mark does a great job running his department and generally at a surplus, as I recall. And I'm just wondering if there's any potential for in-kind in terms of how we're accounting for some of these things, or does it have to be strictly from the levy so that the planning department is made whole every year?
I don't know if you have an answer for how to address the planning and building permit fees. Again, that's kind of based on how council wants to go about it typically.
Go ahead, Mr. Bancroft.
Through you, Mayor. There is a section under the CIP that deals with planning and building permit fee grant in terms of, again, you know, subject to direction from committee and council, but in terms of covering 50% of eligible fees required in relation to a proposed project. So there is that component included, also to a maximum of 3,000 per project and or property as part of a planning application and building permit fee grant. So that information is embedded, Mayor, in the proposed CIP.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Smybert.
Yes, thank you. To the director, I believe. So with respect to the correspondence received from Sifton, and specifically it's about, I think it was incentivizing the development of affordable housing, and they referenced a program in St. Thomas. Was that considered during the process, and what kind of comments or feedback was provided back to Sifton? And I guess the resolution was not to include. I'm just wanting to know why.
Go ahead.
We have not responded to Sifton as of yet. We did receive those comments, or at least Stantec did last week. So after this meeting, we're going to be going back through all the comments and addressing what we think and how we're going to implement it into the edits. But I know we have affordable housing was one of the topics that we discussed, and one of the grants that we have is the commercial conversion and rental housing grant. So we kind of focus that on redeveloping underutilized lots to be able to accommodate a different form of affordable housing. And one of their comments as well was to include residential lots to be considered applicable. So that's definitely something we can take into consideration, which will also kind of help broaden the affordable housing incentives. So that is something we are considering.
Councillor Heeman.
Through you, your worship, I think if you're looking from Sifton's perspective and you're seeing some of the regional goings on, I know London was beneficiary of the Housing Accelerator Fund, and they actually used their CIP plan as the mechanism for disbursement. So I think that may be something, as these larger pools of funds targeted at activating large blocks of housing. if we're successful in grant applications, then it might be appropriate at that time to review this mechanism.
Thank you, Counselor Heyman. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no other discussion, then a mover and a seconder that the public participation portion of the meeting be now closed. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Counselor Lockie, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. The next, the next motion is the decision that report number PDS 026-24 be received for information, and that the Director of Planning and Development Services provide a subsequent report to Council to facilitate the approval of the Community Improvement Plan, taking into account all public and agency comments received, with a recommendation for Council's consideration at a future meeting. A mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. So at this time, I motion to adjourn the public meeting at 6:10 p.m. and that council reconvene its regular meeting. Mover and seconder, Counselor Crockett, seconded by Counselor Lockie. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. So moving on then to item number 9 in your agenda, a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April 15th be approved as circulated. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Counselor Heeman. All in favor? Item number 10, consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. Mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Smybert and Counselor Crockett.
Actually,
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
sorry, just before you get to that, I'm
So-
going to request that item 10.2 be
Okay.
removed from the list for consideration of endorsement.
all right.
Just along with that line, I'm not sure, we did update. We've got another communication from the Source Protection Agency that says they have been told they are keeping that program in place. I'm not sure, even if you still want to endorse it, I just wanted you to know.
Okay, we have, so let's just deal with items 10.1 and 10.3 then, to be received for information. A mover and a seconder. Counselor Crockett and Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? Okay, and now we will deal with item number 10.2. Deputy Mayor Smybert?
Yes, I'll move that we that's what I'm looking for, endorse that that resolution, please.
Okay, we have a mover and a seconder is Counselor Heeman. All in favor? Okay, that's fine. That carries. Thank you. All right, we will move on to reports from the various departments. First one is PWDR-003-24, the Wilton Drain request for improvement. And Mr. Pitt, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. The request in front of you is a request for an existing municipal drain to be improved. This request is coming from the Middlesex County Roads Department. It's regarding some improvements that are going to be taking place along Elgin Road inside the hamlet known as Harrietsville. There's been some discussion about the condition of this drainage works and how to move forward. It was originally constructed in 1942. After some discussion with the county, they had determined that they would like to submit an improvement request to council. And I think I'll leave it there and open up to any questions that council might have.
Thank you, Travis. Any questions on this one? Counselor Heeman?
What would make this a drain versus like normal ditching?
Through your worship, to Councillor Heeman, it is an existing subsurface drain that runs in the eastern portion of the existing, in the road allowance currently.
Anything further? Oh, Councillor Crockett?
Through your worship, and actually Travis, I'm not sure whether you can address this or whether it would be a question to county council or Middlesex County is I believe the sidewalk through Harrietsville runs along that side. Would that be impacted by this work? And with the additional work being done on Elgin Road, do you know whether or not it would be replaced?
Through your worship, I can't answer that. I don't know the entire extent of what the county's planning on doing along Elgin. There is the potential that the drain could impact sidewalks if homeowners in the area are requesting some drain connections, they would probably have to cross. But if that's as far as the drainage work would impact it, their extent of work could also be impacting the sidewalk as well. I'm not sure of that.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none then, do I have a mover for the recommended motion as appended to the agenda? Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That motion carries then. Thank you. Thank you, Travis. The next item on the agenda is 11.2 PDS-022-24, proposed Bill 185, Cut Red Tape to Build More Homes Act, and draft 2024 Provincial Planning Statement. Mr. Bancroft, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. So you have before you a copy of my report. My report summarizes the key changes that are proposed by the province with respect to Bill 185 and also the draft 2024 provincial planning statement. My report also goes further to outline implications for the municipality. And just in terms of background, Bill 185 was introduced at the beginning of April. And it's proposing some changes to particular pieces of legislation, in particular the Planning Act and the Development Charges Act. And also at the same time, the province released the proposed provincial planning statement, which is intended to replace the provincial policy statement along with the growth plan. It is subject to a 30-day window. And posted on the Environmental Registry of Ontario and open for comments until May 10th. So it was critical that I present this report before council this evening to ensure that we're able to get our comments submitted to the province ahead of that closing period. My report goes on, Your Worship, to explain the key changes proposed insofar as the Development Charges Act, followed by the Planning Act, and then lastly, some of the key elements of the provincial planning statement. I'm not sure, Mayor, if you would like me to go through all the points individually, or at the very least, I'm here to answer any questions. Should you or members of council have any questions regarding the material that's before you? I'm in your hands.
All right, thanks. Everyone in council has had an opportunity to read through this and formulate any questions ahead of time. Any questions or comments regarding this particular document? Councillor Crockett.
Through you, Your Worship, just a comment to Director Bancroft. I just wanted to reiterate that I believe your comments on the settlement boundary expansion area and the Middlesex County official plan growth responsibilities are accurate, and appreciate you putting the comment forward on those conditions.
Thanks, Councillor Crockett. Is there anyone else wishing to comment on this? Deputy Mayor Smybert?
Again, just to comment, I understand the bill's cutting red tape. It doesn't necessarily mean that every municipality puts everyone through this onerous process. I think what we have in Thames Center is fairly straightforward. I do echo your comments about the elimination of the pre-consultation requirement. Like, that just seems to be something that you should do, and I'm glad to see that you will continue to do that, even though that's not a requirement, but that's all I have to say.
Okay. If there is nothing else then, in terms of questions or comments from council, then do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion to receive the report as appended to the agenda? Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're going to turn this over now to our clerk, Jenna Nethercott, to present a proposed update to fees and charges bylaw. It's item 11.3 on your agenda. Whenever you're ready, Jenna.
Good evening, council. This is the consideration of an amendment. Most of these fees are a consolidation of fees that you have seen throughout the years since we passed the original one. The only other ones that maybe you hadn't seen or seen as much of would be the ones in the environmental services fees. They were in the water rate studies as part of a way to be more transparent. We felt we should bring it forward and put it on the fees and charges so everyone had the ability to see it. And then the rest of them have all generally been discussed or brought forward in reports. So I'm here if you have any questions. Hopefully we can answer them.
Thank you, Jenna. Any questions from the members of council on these items or comments? Deputy Mayor Smybert.
Yep, to the clerk. So we didn't have a deeming bylaw application fee prior to.
We did not. It was part, I believe the director of planning brought it forward as part of his report. The last one, we had them pay the legal costs instead.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing else? Okay, a mover for the recommended motion as appended to the agenda and a seconder. Daniel Lucky and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? That carries, thank you. All right, no unfinished business that I'm aware of, no notices of motion or new business. Bylaws, item number 15 on your agenda. A mover and a seconder that bylaws 28-2024 through 33-2024 be adopted as presented. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Lockie and Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. At this time, council will be moving into closed session for which there will be no live streaming. The live stream will resume once the closed session portion has been completed. So a mover and a seconder for council to adjourn its closed session at 6:22 p.m. pursuant to section 2392K of the Municipal Act 2001 in order for council to consider a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations carried on or to be carried on or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Okay. All right. A mover into seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Lockie, all in favor? All right, the Ryerson report, during closed session, there was consideration was given to a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations carried on or to be carried on or behalf of the municipality or local board. A mover and a seconder. And council directs staff to enter into negotiations for a 12-month trial period with Playroom Experiment for an alternate location within the Flight Exec Center. A mover and a seconder. Councillor, Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman? All in favor? All right, that carries. Number 18 on your agenda is the confirmatory bylaw. Confirmatory bylaw 34-2024, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution of the municipality of Thames Center. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That motion carries. Just to let everyone know, the next regular meeting of council is on Monday, May the 13th, here in the chambers at 5 p.m. Also followed by Monday, May 27th, 2024, also at 5 p.m. in the chambers. And just a reminder to anybody listening or watching that the Ward 1 Mini Town Hall is being held tomorrow evening at the Lions Senior Center in Thorndale, beginning at 6:30, and it runs until 8 p.m. Light refreshments. Come bring your thoughts, ideas to Councillor Heeman, myself, Deputy Mayor Smybert, I believe. Possibly even our CAO. All are welcome. Hope to see a good turnout. So that finalizes the meeting to ask for a motion to adjourn and a seconder, and the time is 6:43 p.m. Councillor Crockett and Councillor Lucky. All in favor?